Hey, everybody. Welcome to Game Breaking News with me, Jeff Grubb, your host from GiantBomb.com. Thank you for tuning in. On this episode, we're going to be talking about Switch 2 already shipping to the United States and a surprise sequel to a game from last year. We have Tamoor Hussain on the show, so it's going to be a good one. Let's get right into it by saying hi to Tam. Tam, how's it going?
It is going okay, dog. It's cold as hell in San Francisco. It's
Really?
raining. It reminds me of being back in London, which I'm kind of into,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah, you're okay with that.
I'm into it, yeah. I went to a Warriors game last night. I watched Steph Curry become the only player to sink 4,000 threes in history. It was a momentous occasion. It was awesome.
That's I was kind of hoping to watch that, but I got busy. But yeah, impressive for sure. Did you stay up and watch? That was actually would have been super late for you, or no, it would have been a little bit earlier for you. Did you see the lunar eclipse?
Oh, I had no idea that was happening.
Yeah, I wasn't awake, so I slept through it. So yeah, it doesn't matter either way. But my kids
I've
knew about
seen it.
Yeah.
You've seen one lunar eclipse. You've seen them all, man.
That's kind of it was kind of I was thinking. My kids were curious about it. They kept calling it the blood moon, and they kept talking about how all the gremlins and the goblins were going to come back because of the blood moon. So I was
Seek
like,
pale blood.
And now they woke up this morning and they were both like, "Hey, last night we turned into gremlins and goblins." I'm like, "Okay, very cool."
That doesn't bode well for your weekend.
No, I mean, God, it's every weekend they turn into gremlins and goblins, so I'm used to it at this point. But yeah, Tam, hey, it's Friday, we made it. It's we got some dregs, we got some real news. We're going to be talking about all of that on Game Breaking News. But hey, Power Block going for real now. How you
feeling about it? We were working on this for ages.
Yeah, it's been it's been nice.
It's been good. Yeah, I think people like it. Especially the thing that's really encouraging about it is this is just the launch version of it. It's the early access version of the Power Block. There's still other shows that are still actively being kind of piloted and figured out, and we expect the Power Block to shift around a bit or even grow to some degree to kind of accommodate new shows and that kind of stuff. So it should be exciting going forward. Like next week we're going to try and work in some GDC content to it if we can. So that'll be cool. And yeah, it's going well, I think. I'm sad that we haven't made one reference to this is for the UK folks out there. Lethal B's anthem, POW.
I recognize some of those words.
Jan, I'm gonna need you for the next time, like whenever, just play Lethal B POW 2004. It's the most aggressive, technically grime track in a long time, and it's just a man shouting "Pow, pow, pow" over and over again. It's incredible.
Okay, I get it now, and that sounds fantastic. Yes, and the grime track, that is separate from a Grimes track, right? Just to be clear.
Oh yeah, Grimes can fall down a well.
Yeah, could just go over there and into a big hole.
You know what's really funny? Like I've told more of it. I saw Grimes before she was Grimes. Like I went to a festival in London, and there was just a tent where this young woman had just an array of busted ass looking devices in front of her, and she was just hitting them, running back and forth and singing at the same time. And it was literally like she was standing a foot away from me. Like I could reach over and press the buttons if I wanted to, but it was just her, and she was just playing songs, and I was like, wow, this lady's gonna go places. And let me tell you, she went to the depths of hell.
She went to some place that we rather she not have. Well, yeah, fair enough. Let's get on with the show and explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings, or find the RSS on GiantBomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start almost said it. Let's break some game news with reports indicate that 380,000 Switch 2 units have already shipped to North America. This comes from Go Nintendo. We're just a few weeks away from Nintendo's
Who's got
Switch
them?
2
Who's
Direct.
got all of those units? Give us some.
Right, yeah, just like, I mean, let one fall off a truck. Switch 2 Direct is coming on April 2nd, during which we'll finally get more details about the upcoming console. Of course, one of the biggest questions surrounding the Switch 2 is when exactly it's going to hit store shelves. Well, according to a new report, Nintendo may already be ready to launch the console in the very near future. This info comes courtesy of user LIC over on the FamiBoards forum, which is obsessed with tracking this sort of thing. According to their research, a Vietnamese manufacturer called HVBG was contracted by Nintendo and has already produced and shipped over 383,000 units of the Switch 2. More specifically, those units were shipped to North America in January and are intended for distribution throughout the United States and Canada. In addition to the consoles themselves, LIC reports that HVBG has shipped 41,598 charging grip units as well. So that okay. Let's just we'll operate under the assumption that this information is accurate. It might not be. This could be cross wires. Things could be incorrect here. It sounds completely plausible to me, Tam, because I think as we keep kind of feeling out from the way Nintendo's rolling out these announcements, they almost certainly intended to originally ship the Switch 2 later last year. I think that's why we got so many of those third-party things that were available and ready to go. It's because there was like one unit out there that third-party manufacturers in China were using to build their third-party accessories around, and that was out in circulation because Nintendo was originally planning to launch this thing sooner. So this sounds right to me. Do you think that the shipping of units to North America in January is more of a sign of the remnants of that original plan, or that, hey, this thing is shipping imminently, like after April 2nd, we could get it as soon as early May or something like that?
I think it will ship imminently. I'm not sure if it's going to be like April to May.
Right.
I mean, like, given how many, like 300,000 units, right? Like, that isn't. You'd expect, maybe I'm wrong. My memory with numbers is especially bad, but like, I'd imagine if that's the total unit that they are shipping right now to prepare for a imminent launch, that's gonna get sold through super quickly, right? Like that is
seconds.
not gonna last. So it doesn't feel like this is like in preparation for an imminent launch. It feels like something else, And like, because if it was for an imminent launch, surely there will be like way more than 300,000 of these things or 400,000 of these things, especially given Nintendo's history and their experience with launching new consoles where they get scalped to hell. They become almost impossible to get for a really long time. I feel like I feel like they have enough experience and are smart enough, but we also know that Nintendo is quite stubborn. But it feels like this is. I can't explain why that many units have been sent out already, but for me, my kind of read on it is like it's not enough to be phase one in an actual retail launch.
Maybe the very early parts of phase one, right? Because this was January.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I guess so. And like January is crazy early.
Yes.
To be sending that stuff out.
I mean,
unless it's, I think like it's more likely for like promotion or something like that, like getting it certain places so that they have it available in like stores, in like little those protected booth things or whatever it may be.
Maybe like warehousing was just like, maybe they just like had the warehouses in North America, so it made more sense. Maybe they did want to get out ahead of tariffs. There's a bunch of like variables here, Tam, that we don't have insight into, so we have to kind of guess at. But it's like you start thinking of like, okay, well, what if it's this? What if it's that? There's a bunch of explanations here, and not all of them are that they needed it here because they were going to launch it like the second after the April 2nd direct. Yeah. So I'm with you that we can only read so much into this number at that time, right?
I love the idea of them all just being in Doug Bowser's house.
Yeah,
just like in a room.
Fit him in his
He's
garage,
like, I needed this. I needed these.
And then like, hey, Dad, can we have some friends over? No, if they come over, I'm gonna have to kill them.
No, yeah, you can't bring them in.
No,
just keep them out that room.
Switch 2.
Yeah, keep them out that room that has all the furniture made out of Switch 2 boxes.
Hey, I think that you're right. That when I hear this number, I do get a little anxious that that's not enough to meet the
Yeah.
demand. But let's assume that is just the first shipment and that they've maybe been consistently shipping these things into the United States. At the same time, I would assume that warehousing these things in North America is probably pretty expensive. It's something they maybe don't want to do, but they might have no choice because they, again, want to get out ahead of tariffs. That's definitely something that they're thinking about for sure. And then on the other side of that, they also just need to be ready for launch, and they need to have these things ready to go. And having them in the United States will make a massive difference when it's, when it is time to get these things out to people and into hands. Maybe this is different because they have a different plan for how they're going to ship this thing. They definitely have talked a little bit about how they have some solution to get around scalpers or to mitigate scalpers. Maybe they are going to go the Sony and Apple route of most people should buy this thing directly through our store, and we will be responsible for shipping it to them. And this is part of them figuring out the logistics of that. Again, like there's 50 different variables we could consider.
I didn't think about that, but that could be a stock specifically just for their website. Like,
yeah, maybe.
This is our 300K like starter stock that we're making scalper proof. And I think that would probably work. I think.
Yeah.
So it could be that.
We are 2 weeks away from this, Tam. It's the 14th right now. I mean, it's a Friday, so we'll really be like that third week from now. But yeah, essentially 2 weeks away from that Nintendo Direct. I feel obligated every time we talk about Switch 2, Tam, to ask the person I'm on the show with, what are your most recent feelings about release date and price? We talked a little bit about release date. Do you kind of like? I think June is sounding more and more plausible. We'll talk about an analyst who had that exact prediction here recently. Is that what you're feeling? And then what are you feeling about price?
I think it will be late June.
Okay. Let us go to Summer Game Fest unbothered a little bit.
No, I think it will be
in our hands. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember how early did Nintendo send out like Switch units for review?
I kind of remember because my kid was just born, and then GDC was happening, and I got mine like a week or two before everyone was going to GDC, and GDC was I think in like late February or early March that year.
Right.
Or I think it was actually right when the Switch was launching was GDC because people were like going out and getting theirs during that thing. So yeah, I think we got it like a couple weeks before the launch date.
There's always something
the same way this time.
There's always something that launches in the middle or just it overlaps with an event like Summer Game Fest. So usually it's a major game release, but I fully expect the Switch launch to potentially fill that slot this year, where everyone's at Summer Game Fest and is like,
you're right.
So did you get one?
I know that exact conversation. I'm like, I've been thinking about that a lot too. It's like there's a very good chance we're all doing that.
Yeah, I do. My biggest question around it is like what's going to happen to those prices, like especially given the tariff situation, like
I mean economic uncertainty too, like the crashing, somewhat crashing value of the dollar. There's again 50 variables we could consider when it comes to pricing this thing, but they also can't overshoot it, right? I think we were in a period there where from the launch of Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 up until the launch of the PS5 Pro, it seemed like, okay, if you had introduced a device in that time, you could kind of set it at the upper limit of your price range. And I think that's what happened with the PS5 Pro, right? That thing is set at the upper limit of what people would likely pay for consoles, and Sony took their opportunity and did exactly that. I think we're on the other side of that, where Nintendo can look at its range and see an upper limit, but is probably a little shy about going to that upper limit.
Yeah.
Yet it can't be 350 like the Switch OLED. It has to be more than that. It just has to be more than that. So it's 400 to 450-ish. I don't know.
I think what's really interesting about Nintendo now is they're in a bit of a predicament where they're between a rock and a hard place because the economics of the world and the industry now kind of are dictating that it's going to need to be a relatively expensive console.
Yes.
But the niche they've carved out in the video game space is having the affordable / cheap home video game console. So it kind of like is an interesting moment with them where they're going to be in between kind of two strategies almost. One's like economically necessitated, and the other one is kind of leveraging the history and the reputation and the precedent that they've set, because people will see new video game console, and I know that there's a large majority, a significant group of people who will see new Nintendo console and automatically think that is going to be cheap and I can get that for my kids or myself very easily. But people haven't kind of internalized the impact of the tariffs yet. So it could be a bit of a rude awakening if they get there and they're like, what? Why is this $450, $500? That's not that far away from a PlayStation 5 or a Xbox Series. Like, what is going on here? I'm interested to see if that happens and to what degree that impacts their the kind of like financials and also their performance. It could be a really cool thing not cool, but like really fascinating thing to watch unfold.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like you nailed it with, they are feeling pressure from multiple angles on figuring out the pricing for this thing. And just as a reminder, we have these conversations, and I think some people will say, no, they know how much it costs to make that thing. And that's just different from how they price the unit when they sell it to us. That is, they're two different separate things. They want to set it at the price they can get away with, the highest price possible. And it costs what it costs. Those are just two different things completely. So they know how much it costs to manufacture. They might still not necessarily know the exact price they might sell this thing for, even at this point, 2 weeks out, because it is something they could decide at the last minute.
Yeah.
We know that they decided last minute for both the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. They were playing chicken there, and then but one company just finally said, we got to say something, so we're going 500. And then that was sort of like the other company was like, okay, 500. Nintendo isn't necessarily in that game of chicken with another company, but they are certainly in that with, like you said, consumer expectations, and then whatever burdens tariffs and uncertainty and global financial markets will put on this system worldwide. There was a Bloomberg analyst who did say he predicts $400 plus prices, so at least $400, maybe more, and a June release date. I think we are. Yeah, that begins to feel like if it goes past June at this point, like something went wrong, because they do seem ready to launch this thing. I do think Nintendo will want to do pretty similar to what it did with the Switch 1, but also kind of how Apple does things, where they announce it, let's ship this thing pretty soon after we announce it, after a quick pre-order burst, and let's just get this thing going. So,
what do you think is the big game for them that they launch with?
I do think they try to position Mario Kart as the thing, and then they hold off on the next big thing, which would probably be a 3D platformer from the Mario team for the holidays. That begins to feel right. I think, yeah.
When is Metroid coming out?
Man, that is a really, really good question. That is like
now you're between a rock and a hard place.
It's such a good question. I mean, they keep that is a Switch 1 game. They keep saying to investors. They're not lying. Like, that thing is coming out for Switch 1 100%. Obviously, that could mean it's a cross-gen release. I mean, that thing probably is out in May. I don't know.
I think it's a launch game. I think it's a launch game.
At this point,
I think what they do is they put out Mario Kart for the babies, and they're like, we get the real adult gamers to play Metroid.
At this point, why wouldn't you do that? Yeah. It's the thing that makes the most sense. So yeah, I want that game sooner rather than later. But if it's going to be like, hey, a launch game that gets benefits for being on the Switch 2, and I only have to wait to June to get that, yeah, let's go. Hey.
All right, everyone.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
For the news, Jeff Grubb says that Metroid is going to be a launch game.
Son of a bitch. All right, let's get to that next one.
Actually, related, did you see that the Nintendo store in San Francisco is opening on May 15th?
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday. You're right. I want to ask all my SF buddies about this. Are you excited? I was like, because it seems like it could be a nightmare. It probably is going to be a nightmare, but
Oh,
you're still going to be there.
1,000,000%. It's
Yeah.
going to be awful. I'm hoping that I can like hit up Nintendo and be like, "Hey, can you get me in?" But they'll probably be like, "No."
Can't,
But
buddy, they won't even let me in.
no. I'm gonna go there. So I imagine they'll have like some exclusive things to like hype it up a bit. I went to the one, we went to the one in Japan, and I walked around the entire thing, and there wasn't a single Metroid item in there.
Yeah.
And I love Mario. I love Mario Kart. I love all the Mario games.
Japan doesn't really care about Metroid.
Yeah, I love all the Mario games except for the objectively bad one, Sunshine. But like, I'm sick of it. I just don't want anything. I want some. Let Samus thrive.
Samus
What's
is
wrong
so
with you
cool.
people? Samus is so cool, and they'll go, "No, we got this fucking portly plumber again. Everyone enjoy." So, oh god, how many times can I buy a Mario hat? Relax.
I I'm gonna always love Mario, but looking at Samus Aran just makes me happy these days. And so I just got the Hallmark Christmas ornament, Samus Aran, and I'm like, I have that ready to go. I just bought that in March, so I'm ready for December. Everybody, that's where I'm at with that game. Boy, I hope Metroid Prime 4 is so good. God, that's most anticipated game.
I want to scan things in the environment.
Yeah, they should let us do that. I think that's a good idea. All right, the first new Silent Hill in over 13 years gets the haunting reveal fans have been waiting for. This is from Ethan Gotch at Kotaku. Silent Hill F's reveal trailer has finally arrived.
In the chat, please, for Silent Hill.
Yep, yes, Silent Hill F's in chat. The long-awaited next entry in Konami's survival franchise looks promising. There's haunting memories, twisted horrors, plenty of fog, and a lot more. It's hard to gauge just how real the Silent Hill comeback is based on the new footage alone, but so far it's off to a good start. I've talked to some people who have enjoyed Silent Hill 2 remake, and they seem excited about this. There is some trepidation about, is this going to carry forward the very solid good work that Bloober did? Because this is a different team. So, yeah, I get that. But, boy, it seems like Konami does have something and knows it has something. So I think they're going to really put the effort in here, and I think this looks good. There's also maybe some people who are some huge Silent Hill fans that have again trepidations about this game. I don't know exactly why, but also here's what I do know, Tam. If a Silent Hill thing hasn't come out yet, the fan base is going to be split and worried about it because they're Silent Hill fans. So like this is normal.
Yeah, I mean, like everyone was convinced the Silent Hill 2 remake was going to be booty cheeks, and it came out and it was, by my estimation, fantastic.
Right.
So I think like a healthy degree of trepidation is fine. I think the lesson we should learn from the previous game, Silent Hill 2 remake, is healthy skepticism and trepidation is good. Let's be careful not to venture into like actively shitting on the developer before you've had any real experience with the game or real understanding it, because like, I don't know, man. I feel like a whole bunch of people all Bloober team an apology. Like,
I mean that is Silent Hill fans. I mean that they can't help themselves.
It was rough as hell. But I get it. Like I had moments where when they first showed that game off, I was like, yikes.
Of course.
And there may even be tweets of me out there being like, this looks shit.
Yeah,
but when time came, like I a crow, and I was like, this is incredible. This is fantastic. Good job for them. Good job by them. But I think the thing that I'm counting on is Konami knows that right now they can't afford to screw up another Silent Hill game. They can't afford to screw up anything. Like they have to make sure that Metal Gear Remake bangs. They need to make sure that next Silent Hill game is good enough to kind of lift the IP up a bit more, because in a world where Resident Evil is popping off this hard, a survival horror franchise that is done well is economically, creatively, and just generally viable. It's not like it used to be where Silent Hill doesn't need to perform super high, and if it vanishes, it doesn't really impact the bottom line. Now it's like they don't have much to work with. They need to make sure this is good because it actually could be beneficial to the company as well. So, and on top of that, I don't think they can rely on like I'm going to call it the Pro Evolution money like they used to, because that game, the football game, was a huge kind of like
football now or whatever it's called.
EA football. No, that's the other one. E-football.
Yeah, there you go. It's
There you
the
go.
A is not in the game.
Yeah. That used to be like their foundation, right? Like they could they had a degree of flexibility and a safety cushion because of the popularity of e-football. But now that's not there. Like it's lost a lot of its kind of shine, and it's the same goes for like the FIFA games, which are no longer called FIFA games, the EA Football Club or whatever
EA
the
Football Club,
hell.
yeah, EAFC.
But long story short, like that kind of economic safety cushion that they used to have isn't as plump anymore.
Well, I
Like
mean,
when
also
they
they just need to grow, right? And it's
yeah.
like, even if eFootball was doing kind of what it's supposed to be doing, and Yu-Gi-Oh has made them a lot of money, continues to make them a
Mhm.
lot of money, sure, but like investors do look at them and they look over at Capcom and they're like, hey, listen, Konami, you make a lot of money. You do make this, and for a long time there, you made more money than Capcom makes, and I think you still might in some ways, but that's
Yeah.
not what we're interested in. We're interested in growth because we're investing now and we want to see that like 15% growth that Capcom's getting right now by making really good games and being really good at making games. And that thing you said about they can't afford to have a misstep with Silent Hill, and the reason for that is there is a company out there that is an easy comparable to Konami called Capcom that isn't making mistakes. And when they do make mistakes, it's with something like Exoprimal, which is like, oh, they tried something and it was an
Yeah.
okay game and it didn't take off. So all right, that's fine. They still had a few months later another Resident Evil game, so we're completely fine over here, and that one hits. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think you're right that they need to take this seriously as an opportunity for like really long-term growth and getting back to the top of the mountain in video games.
Yeah, and I think also they need to build goodwill because of things like what happened with Silent Hill 2 remake. A lot of the reason that the backlash came so fast and thick was because Konami's reputation kind of was in the shitter at the
Yeah.
time, and still very much is. There's not a lot of trust from people that they will handle their franchises with care and do their utmost to, make sure that the games they put out are good. They, for a significant period of time, were kind of in a rough spot with the post Kojima stuff, and then their games weren't that good. Then they went into like NFTs for a bit and had that whole reseller thing or whatever it was, where they thought they were kind of trying to turn it into a market. And like now they need goodwill to make sure that when they announce a new game, let's say like two scenarios, a year from now they announce that a brand new original Metal Gear title is being made. If their games up until that point are ass, people are gonna
It's
destroy
going to be
them.
bad for them.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be bad. But if they've put out a couple of banger Silent Hill games, people are gonna be like,
Delta works. Yeah.
yeah. They did Delta. That was good. Ideally,
Yeah.
and the
Hopefully.
Silent Hill game they made was good. That
Hmm.
Silent Hill F game seems to be very good based on what everyone is saying. I'm gonna let them cook,
Yeah.
but
And
they
it's like
need
I think
that.
they want to be there.
Yeah, and the way they do that is the same way that Capcom did it, where they were like, we're reinventing Resident Evil, and they put it out, and it was, this is incredible. You did a great job. Do more of these. And then they kept doing it well. They put out Resident Evil 2 remake, and they were like, we took our old game and absolutely made it one of the best games ever made. Like the Resident Evil 2
Hmm.
remake is top 10 of all time, I think. And maybe Metal Gear, is their Resident Evil 2 remake, and this is the thing that propels them to like actually regaining a lot of positive will.
Yep. I think that's the exact path that they should be aiming for, and I'm hopeful, Tam, that that's what we get. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about Space Marine 3 getting announced right after
There's
this.
3 of them now?
All right, let's get right back into this show with Warhammer 40K Space Marine. The triple is officially now in development. That's from George Yang at GameSpot. Focus Home Entertainment and Saber Interactive have announced that Warhammer 40K Space Marine 3 is officially in development. Platforms were not revealed yet, but more information will be provided at a later date. An announcement trailer was released, but it doesn't show any gameplay or footage at all. It's just the title and key art of protagonist Captain Titus playing for 16 seconds with the sound of rain in the background.
Is this the franchise that is for the Horde or for the Emperor?
This is for the Emperor.
This is for the Emperor. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Yeah,
For the
for the
Horde, I think
Emperor.
it's World of Warcraft. Is that right, Mike Minardi?
Yeah. That's the one.
Yeah, this is for the Emperor, and it's very, over the top, fascistic. So people take it
Oh,
seriously.
America loves it.
Yeah, exactly. Americans
America's
love it.
favorite video game.
And Henry Cavill loves it.
Yeah.
So Space Marine 2 came out last year. It was a very good game. It just is a good game. They nailed.
Finished playing that game, man.
Yeah,
I love the first Space Marine. I was goofing earlier. I know what Space Marine is. And I also know what Warhammer is. I worked for a really long time in the same office as Dave Jewett, who is like #1 Warhammer man. So I'm very, very familiar with it. And this is very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, Warhammer Space Marine 2 was good. They nailed the using their tech, which is like they took their World War Z tech of the zombies climbing over each other, applied that to the hordes of enemies that attack you in Space Marine, and then just made the guys you play as big, dumb, and fun. And it's really cool. It's really well done, and it's really fun in co-op. Although I think the game is pretty solid solo as well, but it's definitely fun in co-op. It has the 3-player mode that you could play through the campaign. It did really well. This game sold extraordinarily well. And so I think them being like, okay, clearly we had a winner here. Let's just keep this ball rolling. I'm still surprised, less than a year after its release, right? Because it hasn't been that long. I don't think that game came out in March of last year. It's less than a year after the release. We're getting the announcement of Space Marine 3. That's really wild, actually.
I think that might be somewhat related to Games Workshop more than
good point.
Focus Home or anything, or Saber even. Yeah. Like I think Games Workshop they're everywhere. Like everyone is making some sort of Warhammer game. And I think that's part of their strategy of kind of like spreading the awareness around Games Workshop and Warhammer especially. Warhammer's, as far as I can tell, I could be, actual fans correct me, but I'm seeing way more Warhammer than I ever have before. Yes. And I am someone who has paid attention to it before. Like I went to a bunch of actual Games Workshop stores and that kind of stuff. And the last time I went there was way more people than I had seen before. So I think that might be part of, Games Workshop immediately going, this is good. We like this, more of this. And yes, you can tell people it's coming. And it benefits everyone. Games Workshop and Warhammer gets a lift. And then Focus gets a lift, and Saber gets a lift, and Henry Cavill gets his chub on.
Exactly, he gets what he needs, right? Yeah, Warhammer has what Henry craves. I think that you're right, and they definitely have taken a shotgun approach to just blasting out Warhammer 40K and Warhammer content. These games are like we get 2 to 4 of them every year from various developers making all kinds of different games. So when one hits, the idea that they would want to immediately follow it up is, you're right, not that surprising. So I'm excited about this because I think this is a good strategy for an IP. I think I would be happy if all the bullshit I liked had this same exact strategy applied to it. I'm a Star Wars nerd who just can't help himself. And I think I would love it if we got 5 bad Star Wars games a year because the 6th one was like, hey, this one's pretty okay and interesting. Everyone likes it. To me, that's like, it used to be that way. I would like for it to return. And, even if it's just like, this is possible, I think in my head, we get to a point where it's like, well, the reason they don't do that sort of thing anymore with all these different IPs is games just take too long. They're too expensive. You have to like really treat each one as a 5 to 7 year project. And like, then here's Warhammer over here being like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Yeah. We'll just work with all kinds of different developers of all different sizes, making games of all different genres so that some do take a few years and some take a year and a half. And we'll see what works and what doesn't. And so just kind of this game or this franchise being over there and proving that this can work, I really appreciate that and respect it.
I think they're like batting average, for want of a better phrase, is pretty good, right?
It's actually pretty solid, yeah.
Yeah, like I was just thinking, and like Bolt Gun was really fun. Starring friend of the show, Raoul Coley. And Darktide was good, I believe. And remains good as far as I can tell. And then I think the Rogue Trader games, is that 40K? Those are kind of decently liked, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely people who love that because those Rogue Trader ones, that's like an RPG style game. Yeah,
Mm.
there's a whole bunch that have really hit with people in various audiences, and then Space Marine 2 is like the one that's this big breakout sales success on top of that. So yeah, I like I said, I really like this way of approaching an IP, and I hope that other companies can look at that and emulate it. But even if it's just this franchise continuing to do it, I'll be happy because it's we get a lot of cool, neat games.
Someone make a Warhammer kart racer. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be
Get on it.
surprised at this point. Yeah. All right, another new game, PowerWash Simulator 2 is going to clean up later this year. This comes from Blair Marnell at GameSpot. When PowerWash Simulator debuted in 2022, it could have easily been just another chore game. Instead, the game's developer, Future Lab, infused PowerWash Simulator with its own mythology and a story with sci-fi elements that slowly plays out over the course of the game. It does? I gotta say, I didn't notice that.
I played it as a chore game.
Yeah, me too. Future Lab is sending players back to Muckingham in PowerWash Simulator 2, and in the first teaser below, players will get a glimpse of some soap-erier equipment they'll be able to use to finally clean up this incredibly dirty town. That's what it says right here, Tam. I just read the news. The gnomes from the first game are briefly seen in the teaser as they unveil the sequel. While Future Lab didn't actually confirm another wild underlying story, it did mention that there will be a new campaign that allows players to uncover more of Muckingham's mysteries.
Does it have a story? I feel like we're being gaslit.
I mean, I don't know.
I feel like I would love it if they reverse kind of like engineered a story. I just kept saying there is a story, but never actually had one. And people are like, where is the story?
Yeah.
So you need to read the item descriptions. They're right there.
Marino says, like, is this a series where, like, do you have to play the first one? And actually, yes. That's crazy. Like, should I play the first PowerWash Simulator? Yeah.
I love the idea of a PowerWash cinematic universe.
Yeah. To me, there's I like it. Okay, I don't know if this is true. It must be true. I don't think Blair Marnell would lie to us, Tam. But I like the games that are like, hey, just it's trials. Just go ride your bike, and then you find out later in like Trials Future or whatever it was that like there's this crazy story that happens as you hear the announcers occasionally, and it's about this real fusion between man and machine, and there's like real dark implications to all that stuff, and all that is in the background happening, and you can very easily miss it. I like that sort of thing, so that's cool. But
it's only a matter of time until we get a PowerWash Simulator Netflix series. So
what's really going to happen is, the Beast, what's his name? Beastie Boy.
Mr. Beast?
Hank Beast. Yeah. Mr. Beast is going to just take this and like turn it into a real life.
Here's what's going to happen. There's going to be a picture of Henry Cavill on set, and there's going to be a pile of papers in front of him, and it'll say PowerWash Simulator. And then everyone's going to be, and suddenly out of nowhere, there's going to be like 100 archived clips of Henry Cavill talking about how much he loves PowerWash Simulator. And people are going to be like, what? Did we know this? And he's like, I've loved it the entire time.
What's that, love? What are you talking about? Yeah.
I love the idea of Henry Cavill just being like the Trojan horse for every like IP. Well, Henry Cavill loved this forever.
Right.
Like, he's into it.
Someone discovered a time machine, but they only use it to send Henry Cavill back in time to like their game so they can make a movie based on it. That's all it's ever used for. That's kind of what the reality I think we're living in. I think most people will play PowerWash Simulator 2 as a chore game. And that's just fine because it's like one of the better ones of those. This is another one of these games that really popped off and had a huge sales success. So getting more of it, again, not surprising. All right, let's keep it rolling here. What's that, Tam? All right.
I sometimes I read too fast and the headlines just all weird. And you can say the next headline.
There are now over 1,000 Xbox Play Anywhere games. This is from
I read that as there are now over 1,000 Xbox players anywhere. I was like, great, good job.
Cool. All right. Well, I mean, no one knows where they are, but they're anywhere.
They're anywhere. There's thousands of them.
After almost 9 years, God, I did not think about it being that old. Microsoft has announced a major milestone for the Xbox Play Anywhere initiative. There are now more than 1,000 games that support the feature, which lets people buy the title once and play it across Xbox platforms, Windows 10 and 11 PCs, and some PC gaming handhelds. Xbox Play Anywhere went live in September 2016, originally working between Xbox One and PCs. The feature also includes cross-save functionality and only works with digital copies of games. As a fun bit of trivia, the first Xbox Play Anywhere supported game was ReCore, with Forza Horizon 3, Gears of War 4, and Halo Wars 2 following behind it.
Recore. I reviewed that game, and
Yeah,
let me
it's a
tell
rough
you,
one.
that was not a good game.
No, it's
What did I
just an
give it?
incomplete game.
What do you think I gave it?
I'm gonna say you gave it a 5. Well, I'm gonna say 5 out of 10.
I gave it a 6.
Okay. All
I
right.
think
Yeah.
that's fair. Six is fair.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think there's some ideas in there. It really is the biggest
there
problem with that
definitely
game
is
is it's
some
not
ideas
finished.
in there. Yeah.
Yes. That's the way you say it about a 6, right? It's got ideas. Hey, Xbox Play Anywhere, just as a reminder, yeah, this is the thing where you could buy it on Xbox or the Windows Store on PC, and then you get it for the other device. For some people, I think that, like, yeah, so I would never use that. But if anyone that does use that, this is a really cool feature. And the idea that there are 1,000 games that take advantage of this is nice. I think Microsoft will have to begin leaning on this even harder, as they seem to be pivoting to this strategy of the next Xbox is just going to be a PC with an Xbox layer on top of it, right? And we're hearing the Xbox handheld could launch this year with the partnership with Asus, and that's going to be an Asus handheld gaming PC with an Xbox layer on top of it. So you're really going to need the Xbox Play Anywhere games to just run on PC there to make that make sense.
This partnership with Asus, it's just going to be a Roger ally with Microsoft branding on it, isn't it?
I mean, yes, but like it will have to go deeper in terms of the software and the experience, because otherwise it'll just be disappointing. Because they did that with the Asus Roger One.
Yeah, the Roger Ally I think is fantastic. I have an X and I love it, but the only issue I have with it is it keeps booting into Windows, and I hate that shit.
Well, that's exactly the thing that they're going to try. I mean, listen, if they don't address that, the fact that you're booting into Windows instead of a game, like, for me, the thing that really made the Switch magical is you pick that thing up and it's a gaming device. It is. You turn it on and here are video games. It's not like your phone where it's here's a bunch of distractions, or a computer where it's like, okay, do you want to now set it up as the gaming thing by going into Steam Big Picture mode? No, you're picking that up to play games, and that makes it easier and more rewarding to play games. I think deep down, Microsoft understands that, and that is the thing that they are going to address with this partnership. Hopefully, I guess I'm really putting some expectations on it, but I think, inshallah. But I think that if they don't do it, I don't know what they're thinking over there, because that is the one effort that they can really make to make a difference in their positioning in handheld gaming PCs.
Yeah.
Okay. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 soundtrack is a mix of classic bangers and new tracks. This is from Michael McWhorter at Polygon. We're getting more news about this game, which is coming out relatively soon. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 is bringing back all of the classic levels and gameplay of the early games, if not the free skate structure career mode of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. But the soundtrack for Activision and Iron Galaxy's remaster will also be a mix of familiar and new, with a range of punk, hip-hop, grunge, and classic rock, including classics like Motorhead's Ace of Spades, that one is a non-negotiable, and newer fare like Run the Jewels, Yankee, and the Brave, Episode 4. That sounds like a really good fit for this. I'm very excited about that. On Thursday, Activision confirmed 20 songs that will appear on Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, with the promise of more to come. You can listen to all of them on a Spotify playlist, which Activision says will be updated as more music is confirmed. Here are the tracks so far, Tam. The returning tracks include Adolescence, Amoeba, Alice in Chains, Them Bones, Body Jar, Not the Same, CKY's 96, Quite Bitter Beans, Denzel Curry's Ultimate, Gang of Four's Damaged Goods, Gang Star's Mass Appeal, H2O's Faster Than the World, Kitty's Charlotte, KRS-One's Outta Here, shout out to KRS-One, Motorhead's Ace of Spades, and then new tracks include Indit's New Wage Slavery, Jeff Rosenstock's Head, that's just a weird way to say that. Run the Jewels, Yankee and the Brave, Episode 4. Schoolboy Q featuring Kendrick Lamar's Collard Greens. Star Crawlers, She Said. TMCF's Result. Turnstile's Real Thing. Urethane's Dog Years, and Waves, King of the Beach. I recognize some of those songs. I'm terrible at remembering song names. It's one of my things. But, I mean, a lot of these artists I'm very excited to see in a Tony Hawk game. Tony Hawk, for as much as it means to skating culture, boy, like, the music was almost just as important. And for some, I think it's maybe more important.
Here's my bet. There will be one Lil Wayne song in this soundtrack.
I think Lil Wayne is in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5.
Okay, yeah. I thought
which
it was
is a shameful thing to be a part of, but he was.
Yeah. I think they'll probably give him a shot again. He loves skating.
Yeah,
So
he was a skater, right? Like that's
yeah,
the thing there. Okay, I think you're
yeah,
probably
he
right.
likes skating. I don't know if he's any good at it, but I assume
Yeah, it doesn't
the.
matter. Yeah,
I'm glad they put in Collard Greens. I love that song.
I think that they owe Lil Wayne that apology after putting him in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 to
Yeah.
give him a presence in a better Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game. And this will be exactly that. Game's coming out June 11th or July 11th, excuse me, for Switch, PlayStation 4 and 5, Windows PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. And it's available to pre-order now. There's special editions where you get a skate deck and all that stuff. I'm still really looking forward to this. And I continue to be like, I'm not that worried about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. I know others are, but I think that they probably made the right decision. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster Series sales top 5 million. Final Fantasy series overall has topped 200 million sales. This is from Sal Romano at Gamatsu. Total sales of the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster series have surpassed 5 million units worldwide, and total sales for the Final Fantasy series have surpassed 200 million units, Square Enix announced. Back in September 2023, Square Enix announced that the total sales of the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster had surpassed 3 million units, meaning it has since sold an additional 2 million units. The Final Fantasy Pixel Remasters consist of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The series first launched on PC via Steam, iOS, and Android with Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3 on July 28th, and then 4 on September 8th, 2021, 5 on November 10th, 2021, and 6 on February 23rd, 2022. All 6 titles launched for PS4 and Switch back in 2023. I mean, this number is maybe notable, this 5 million number, because that's about how much Final Fantasy VII Remaster sold. It's sold better since then. Final Fantasy VII Remaster 2, Rebirth, whatever it is, that one sold about the same 5 million units. Final Fantasy 16, I think they said it rushed to 3 million copies sold, and Square Enix has not said anything since then. There's been some reporting that sold maybe 1 million, maybe 500,000 since then. So these older Final Fantasy games, sure, this is on everything. Final Fantasy 16 is not. So there's, and Final Fantasy 16 also, kind of locked down to PC and PlayStation 5. So yeah, there's some things holding that back. But these older games, maybe this is what people want from Final Fantasy. I don't know, Tam. The nostalgia needs to be more implemented into the new Final Fantasy games going forward. I don't know necessarily what that looks like, but I do think like going back to your roots seems like one of the answers here for this franchise. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a pathway that is worth exploring, provided it doesn't require overinvestment. I think because this is for the remaster series, which is what, like 6 games or something like that.
Yeah,
and accumulated is 200 million. That's a lot of sales.
Yep.
But I think that what makes it especially good for Square Enix is that it probably doesn't cost as much to make these games, right? Like they are working with a foundation, and they have a common style that they have an engine that they're just pumping out these bad boys using. I think the smart thing would be to kind of, once you're done remaking all of these games and making them available, consider making a original game in the style of this. And I think that you can pretty much do that with the Octopath Traveler crew knocking about, and that team capable of making essentially that game for a few years now. So I definitely feel like there is a nostalgia to it. I think that if they did do that, a new Final Fantasy game in the style of a classic with the Pixel remaster style thing, I don't think it will sell as much, because the games that are released, they are powered by nostalgia, and there isn't going to be a nostalgia around a brand new entry in the series beyond an aesthetic one. But I still think that there is enough of a audience and a desire for these classic style Final Fantasy games that it's worth at least one shot at it, and kind of like taking a genuine pop at making a traditional style Final Fantasy, as opposed to like doing something that's going to annoy people. Like, oh, we made a new Final Fantasy game and it's got all the characters from all the old ones in it, and
Right.
they're in a multiverse. It's like, no, nobody wants that. They just give them a fresh Final Fantasy game. You know, it needs to have Amano's unique artwork on the front, and it needs to maybe have a story from someone who has worked on the team, etc., etc. Yeah, I think I would like to see it.
Yep.
I, for one, would like to see it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. You and I both really enjoyed Expedition 33's demo, right? The thing
Oh
that they
yeah,
showed.
it's quickly shot up to like one of my most anticipated games of the year.
That's Expedition 33. What's the subtitle there?
Player Obscure.
Claire Obscure Expedition 33. That's right. That is coming out soon. And I continue to think, like, when I look at that game, I'm like, I think Final Fantasy fans would die to have a Final Fantasy game that is basically just this.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I think that's because this, Expedition 33 is a game that very informed by turn-based RPGs, and I think that's, and just being like in that bullshit and being happy to be mired in all that stuff, and I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that Square Enix should look around, kind of like be like, okay, here's what our older games do. Here's what other games that are aping our older games and kind of evolving those ideas. Here's what they're doing and generating so much excitement. That's what Persona's doing, growing every single time it has a new one come out. Maybe we should just be more into our own shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see.
I think that we've reached the end of the runway in trying to in attempts to make Final Fantasy action oriented so that it appeals to a broader audience. I feel like they've run out of road on that stuff. They ain't gonna get much more out of it, and it's diminishing returns as they continue. I think 16 was good. I feel like if they keep doing more games in the style of 16, there's going to be a precipitous drop off. I think the remake games find a good middle ground, but I think I agree in that returning to your roots and modernizing those in a less drastic way could be a new avenue for them, especially given how seemingly good Expedition seems to be doing it.
Yep. And then the last little bit about this would be, well, hey, these old games did really well. What about Final Fantasy Tactics Remake, Final Fantasy IX Remake? These rumors that we've heard for a long time. Those probably are still coming. I think we keep every few months, every year or so, we get an update being like, new report. Those things are still real and are still happening. It's been a while now since we initially heard about them in the NVIDIA leak, which, every other game basically has been confirmed from that thing. So we will, probably see those things eventually. I think that there's no reason to assume we wouldn't, because this has worked. This strategy has worked repeatedly for Square Enix now.
Final Fantasy VIII Remake, let's do it.
Okay,
it's
well,
time.
let's not do anything crazy.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens with Final Fantasy and the rest of the news. For now, let's get over to the poll question from yesterday. I have it right over here. Have you played the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion? 27% said
what is this
no,
question?
and 73% said yes. Well, the Oblivion remake is basically, the news on that was that thing's coming very soon. So kind of was curious to see what people said.
You know what? I didn't finish Oblivion. I didn't really get on with Oblivion when I first started playing it. I was like, this is janky as hell, and I hate this shit. But then Skyrim, I was obsessed with.
I like the jank of Oblivion, but those are not games where I would, if someone says I played that for 1,000 hours and never finished the story, I'm like, yeah, you played that game. That's the way you're supposed to play those games.
I think the issue was I was very superficial when it came to games at that time, because it was I just got
It's an ugly game.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was like, I got this hot new console. It's expensive. It's powerful. I put in this game and it looks like dog shit and everything's breaking. I'm like, I don't want to see this.
Yeah. And for as much as Mike Minotti got disgusted when I was immediately like, well, what about mods if they're remaking this in Unreal 5? Those are games that thrive on mods, and you're a grown up. You're allowed to choose how you want to play games yourself. You don't have to do what the corporation tells you. So I hope that when the Unreal 5 remake of Oblivion comes out, as the rumor keeps saying, they are ready to support that community, because Oblivion could be so much better if you just let the community cook, and it has been for a long time. All right. Here's some responses here. Only time I ever skipped school was to play this. Yeah, those. Let's see if I can read that name. Pliskin Sam says that. Yeah, hey, Oblivion, and I think I actually took some work off to play Skyrim personally because I loved Oblivion
Yeah,
so much.
I did Skyrim. I played a bunch of Oblivion, but I just didn't stick with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. New poll question we'll get to here in a second. Before we do that, though, Tamoor Hussain, why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet, what you have
Hello.
going on, all that good stuff.
You can find me at Tamoor H on everything. You can find me on giantbomb.com. You can find me on gamespot.com. You can find me on twitch.tv/Tamoor H. I'm on Instagram at Tamoor H. I'm on Twitch at Tamoor H. I'm on YouTube at Tamoor H. I recently published a video about my cat, which I think everyone should watch.
I love it.
It's just about my cat. There's nothing else in that video. It's just about my cat. I promise you. Yeah. You don't need anything else. It is a 20-minute video about my cat and nothing else. Please give it a watch. That's just some side stuff. But anyway, that's goofy side stuff. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I'll be on UPF later, which will be fun.
That's right.
And
we're
then
playing Repo.
Yeah, playing that weird ass. The emoji looks mad game.
And just there are a lot of options for the camera in that game. I recommend you all get in there and mess with it. Really turn down the camera animation setting.
Yes, yeah. I think I'm gonna be doing it from the office. So I'll be in the stream room that Jan was in yesterday, because I'm going from that straight into GameSpot After Dark, which is, I believe, the next show, maybe. But yeah, so you'll see plenty of me today.
Looking forward to it.
Much to your dismay.
Nope, this is the way we want it now. I think this is like the thing people are enjoying so much about the Power Block is go right from this show. Like yesterday, we went right into the GameSpot show, and it was like all these people that we see briefly here and there on Giant Bomb stuff. Well, now it's just integrated, and there they are, and they're doing fun stuff, and it was so good. I was just so happy with what you guys were doing over there.
This is a good opportunity. People can find me on the various platforms: Instagram, Twitter. No, actually, ideally not Twitter, Blue Sky, and let me know what game you would like me to see me stream on an ongoing basis, because one of the slots I kind of want to fill will be a me stream a game weekly. But I've got a lot of like ideas for games that I think I would be cool to stream. I mentioned Returnal as one of them, but if anyone else has any of your ideas that they think would be cool, just hit me up, let me know, and I'll note them down and figure it out.
Sounds good. All right, new poll question. Did I not put one on here? Let's see. Let's come up with a poll question.
Oblivion doesn't count. I'm not playing Oblivion.
Let's see here. There's the Switch stuff. There was Silent Hill F. Let's say, what does the F stand for in Silent Hill F? Forte, F-stop. Fortnite. Yeah, that's one. So the Forte, Forte, Fortnite, F-stop, and then F's in chat. Those would be your 4 options.
Yeah, I like that.
Forte, not well.
Oh, Fuddy Duddy.
Right. F-stop. Oh, yeah, Fuddy Duddy. Thank you, Tam.
Fuddy Duddy.
Fuddy Duddy. Perfect. All right, well, we'll get the responses for that on Game Breaking News on Monday here on the Power Block. Until then, Tam. That's right. Pow, 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 Tam. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and talking about the news, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. See you again next week, maybe. What's going on next week? I should be around next week.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll be around.
And then I know you're busy with stuff coming up next week, but yeah, we'll
EDC. I also have. I'm going to come in hot to that one. I'm going to come in hot because I will have been working out since 7 a.m. So I'm going to roll up and be the sweatiest dude.
All right, I'll try to match your energy. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Jan, thank you so much for producing. Thank you all for watching and listening at home. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.